Welcome back to tonight's broadcast, A Place for Stories. If you're new here, sit back, turn down the lights, and get comfortable. If you enjoy paranormal encounters, unexplained mysteries, and stories that might make you think twice before driving home alone at night, be sure to subscribe and join us for future broadcasts. Now, let's begin tonight's first submission. This first story was sent in by someone who says it happened when he was 24 years old, driving home late at night after visiting his mother. He says he never believed in ghosts, spirits, or anything paranormal, but after what happened on that road, he refuses to drive alone at night. This is his story. I was 24 when this happened. At the time, I was living alone in a small apartment about 40 minutes away from my hometown. I had just started working as an assistant manager at a hardware store, and honestly, I was proud of myself. It wasn't some dream job, but it was the first time in my life where I felt like I was finally doing something on my own. My parents were divorced when I was younger, and my mom had raised me mostly by herself. So every Sunday, I tried to drive back home and have dinner with her. It was our little routine. She would cook way too much food, ask me if I was eating enough, and send me home with leftovers even when I told her I didn't need any. That night started normal. I stayed later than usual because my mom had been feeling lonely. We watched an old movie, talked about work, and before I knew it, it was almost midnight. She asked me to stay over, but I told her I had to open the store early the next morning. That was my first mistake. The drive back to my apartment was mostly rural. There was one stretch called County Road 12. It was about 15 miles of nothing but trees, fields, and old telephone poles leaning towards the road like they were tired of standing. There were no gas stations, no houses close to the road, no streetlights, just pure darkness. I had driven that road dozens of times, but that night felt different almost immediately. The sky was moonless, the kind of dark where your headlights don't feel strong enough. They only showed a narrow tunnel of road in front of me, and everything outside of that light looked completely swallowed. I remember turning down the radio because the static was bothering me. That was strange because my radio had been working fine earlier. At first, it was just a crackle underneath the music. Then it became sharper, like someone crumbling paper right next to my ear. I hit the power button. The car went silent. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. The silence inside the car became too heavy. I could hear every little sound, the engine humming, the tires rolling over the pavement, my own breathing. Then, about 5 minutes into County Road 12, I saw someone standing on the shoulder. My first thought was that it was a deer. My headlights got closer, and I could see it was a woman. She stood perfectly still on the right side of the road, wearing a pale blue dress that looked completely wrong for the weather. It was cold that night, not freezing, but cold enough for a jacket. She wasn't wearing one. Her hair was long and dark, hanging forward over part of her face. She had one arm lifted slightly, like she was trying to wave someone down. I slowed the car without thinking. Then every instinct in my body told me not to stop. There was no broken down car nearby, no flashlight, no phone light, nothing, just her, standing alone in the dark. As I passed, I turned my head to look at her. Her face was pale, not normal pale, almost gray, and her eyes followed me as I drove by. I pressed the gas. For the next minute, I kept looking in my rearview mirror. At first, I saw nothing. Then I saw her. She was still standing there in the distance, lit faintly by the taillights, but something about her looked wrong. She hadn't turned around. Her body was still facing the direction I had first seen her. Only her head had turned, all the way around, facing my car. I looked back at the road so fast I almost swerved. My hands tightened on the wheel. I told myself I was tired. It was late. I had worked all week. My mind was making things worse. Then my phone rang. The sound made me jump. It was my mom. I answered on speaker. Before I could say anything, she said, Did you already pass the old bridge? Her voice sounded weird. I told her, no, I'm about 10 minutes away from it. Why? There was a pause. Then she said, don't stop for anyone. My stomach dropped. I asked her what she meant. She said, just don't stop. Call me when you get home. Then the call cut off. I stared at the phone sitting in the cup holder. No service. The road always had bad signal, but the timing made my skin crawl. A few minutes later, I reached the old bridge. It was a narrow concrete bridge that crossed a dry creek bed. The guardrails were rusted, and the trees around it grew so thick that even during the day, the area felt shaded and cold. As soon as my tires hit the bridge, my headlights flickered. Once, twice, then they went out. Everything went black. I slammed the brakes. The car stopped in the middle of the bridge. For maybe 2 seconds, I couldn't move. Then the headlights came back on, and she was standing in front of my car. The same woman. The blue dress, the dark hair, the pale face. She stood about 10 feet away, in the center of the road, staring directly at me. I screamed. I'm not embarrassed to admit that. I screamed so loud my throat hurt. Her mouth slowly opened, but I didn't hear a scream. I heard knocking, 3 slow knocks, from the passenger window. I turned my head, and there it was, a hand pressing against the glass. Thin fingers, wet palm. Then a face leaned into the window from outside. It was the same woman, but she was also standing in front of my car. The one outside my passenger window smiled. Not a friendly smile, a stretched smile, like her face was being pulled by invisible hooks. I threw my car in reverse and backed up hard. The tires screeched against the bridge. My car jerked backwards, and for a moment I thought I was going to hit the guardrail. When I looked forward again, the road was empty. No woman, no handprint, nothing. I should have turned around and gone back to my mom's house, but I panicked. I just wanted to get off that road, so I drove forward. I crossed the bridge, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the wheel. That's when the whispering started. It came from the back seat, soft at first, like someone talking in their sleep. I looked in the rearview mirror. The back seat was empty. Then the whispering came again, closer this time. Why didn't you stop? My entire body went cold. I kept my eyes on the road. I told myself not to look. Then something moved in the mirror. A shadow rose slowly behind my seat. It wasn't shaped right. It was too tall to be sitting in the back. Its shoulders were hunched, almost touching the roof of the car. Its head leaned sideways like its neck was broken. I could see only the outline, a dark shape darker than the night around it. Then strands of wet hair slid forward over my shoulder. I felt them touch my neck. I slammed my foot on the gas. The car shot forward. The engine roared. Trees blurred past on both sides. I didn't care about speed limits. I didn't care about deer. I didn't care about anything except getting away. Then my radio turned on by itself. Only static came through. Underneath the static was a voice, a woman crying, then laughing, then crying again. I reached for the radio, but before my hand touched it, every door lock clicked, over and over. Then the passenger seatbelt slowly pulled itself out, like someone invisible had just sat down. The buckle clicked into place. I stared at it for half a second. Then the passenger seat sank under weight. The seat cushion pressed down. The headrest tilted back slightly. Something was sitting beside me. I refused to look. Then I heard breathing, right next to me. Wet, shaky breathing. A voice whispered, "You saw me." I started praying. I hadn't prayed like this since I was a kid, but the words came out of me without thinking. The road ahead suddenly filled with fog. It rolled out of the trees like smoke, thick and white, covering everything. I slowed down because I couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. That's when I saw headlights coming towards me. At first I felt relief. Another car, another person. But then I realized the headlights weren't on the opposite side of the road. They were in my lane, coming straight at me. I honked. The headlights kept coming. I swerved right. The other vehicle passed so close that my mirror snapped inward. But as I passed it, I saw it clearly. It was an old car, crushed in the front, windshield shattered, and behind the wheel was the same woman in the blue dress. Her face was covered in blood. Her mouth was open in a silent scream. The car disappeared behind me. I hit the brakes again. This time, I turned around in my seat. There was nothing behind me. No car, no headlights, no road behind me at all. Only fog. Then something slammed against my rear windshield. I screamed again and looked in the mirror. The woman was pressed against the back glass from outside, her face flattened against it, her eyes wide, her mouth open, her hands clawing at the glass. But she wasn't alone. Behind her, standing in the fog, were other shadows. People, at least 6 of them, all standing along the road, all facing my car. Some were missing parts of their faces. Some had broken necks. Some stood bent in impossible ways. And all of them looked like they were waiting for me. The woman's mouth moved. This time I heard her clearly. "Take me home." Then my headlights cut out again. I don't know what happened next. I remember the sound of my engine screaming. I remember driving blind. I remember shadows moving past the windows, running alongside my car, hands slapping the doors, fingernails scraping the paint. A face appeared inches from my driver's window, upside down, grinning at me with broken teeth. Then, suddenly, I was out. The fog vanished, the road widened. Streetlights appeared ahead. I was at the edge of town. I pulled into the first gas station I saw and parked crooked across 2 spaces. I ran inside shaking so badly the cashier thought I had been robbed. I called my mom. She answered immediately. Before I could explain, she said, "You saw her, didn't you?" I asked her how she knew. She told me that when she was younger, there had been an accident on County Road 12 near the old bridge. A young woman had been driving home late at night after visiting her family. Her car went off the bridge during heavy fog. They found her body the next morning. But the strange part was that several people claimed to see her after that. Always at night, always near the bridge, always trying to get someone to stop. Some people said if you ignore her, she followed you. Some said if you stopped, she got in. I asked my mom why she never told me. She said she thought it was just an old local story. Until that night. Because 5 minutes before she called me, she said she woke up suddenly from a dream. In the dream, she saw me driving across the bridge, and there was a woman sitting in my passenger seat, smiling at her. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I looked at my car. There were long scratches down both sides. The passenger seatbelt was still buckled, and on the inside of the passenger window, written in fogged up letters, were 4 words: "You should have stopped." I moved out of that apartment 2 months later. I still visit my mom, but I never take County Road 12. And I never drive home after dark. Because sometimes, even now, when I'm alone in my car at night, I hear a woman whisper from the back seat, "Take me home." Tonight's second submission comes from a listener named Ethan. At the time, he was 27 years old and had recently started a new career that often required him to drive late at night between cities. He says he had always laughed at stories about haunted roads until one wrong turn led him somewhere no GPS could explain. He calls his experience the road that shouldn't exist. This is his story. My name is Ethan. I'm 27 years old now, and before this happened, I spent almost 3 years working as a pharmaceutical sales representative. Most of my job involved driving. Some weeks I'd spend more time behind the wheel than I did in my own apartment. I actually enjoyed it: the quiet, the freedom, the feeling of watching the sunrise while driving through empty highways. It gave me time to think. Growing up, I had always been the anxious one in the family. My older sister loved adventure. My parents traveled whenever they could. Me, I liked routines. The same coffee shop, the same route to work, the same grocery store. So when I accepted a job that required hundreds of miles of driving every week, everyone thought it was completely out of character. Looking back, maybe I should have listened to my instincts. This happened last October. I had spent the day visiting clinics in several small towns. The final appointment ran late, and by the time I started driving home, it was almost 11:30 at night. The GPS estimated 2 hours until I reached my apartment. It was cold, not freezing, just cold enough that a thin layer of fog had started forming over the fields. Traffic was almost non existent. Every now and then, another car would pass, but for the most part, I had the highway to myself. I remember thinking how peaceful everything felt. That feeling didn't last. About 45 minutes into the drive, I noticed something strange. My GPS froze. Not unusual. It happened occasionally in rural areas. The screen still showed my route, but the little blue arrow that represented my car stopped moving. I glanced at my phone. No signal. Again, nothing unusual. I kept driving. 5 minutes later, my dashboard clock changed. 11:58, then 11:42. I frowned. Maybe the battery had glitched. I reached over and reset it. The moment I finished, it read 11:58 again. I laughed to myself. Technology. Always doing something weird. I wish that had been the weirdest thing that happened. About 10 minutes later, I came across a road I had never noticed before. A narrow 2-lane road branching off the highway. There was an old wooden sign beside it. The paint had almost completely peeled away. Only one word remained visible: hollow. No town name, no distance, just hollow. My GPS suddenly came back to life. Instead of continuing straight, it calmly instructed, turn left. I hesitated. The highway route was still open in front of me. Why would it suddenly reroute? Then I saw flashing lights several miles ahead. Construction, maybe. I figured the GPS was helping me avoid traffic, so I turned. The road immediately felt different. The pavement became older, cracked, uneven. Trees crowded both sides so tight that their branches nearly touched overhead. Within minutes, the fog became much thicker. My headlights barely reached beyond 20 feet. The strange part, there weren't any sounds. No insects, no wind, nothing. It was like someone had muted the entire world. Even my tires seemed quieter. That's when I passed my first mailbox. Old, rusted. The number painted on it was 13. 100 yards later, another mailbox, also 13. Then another. Every mailbox, every driveway, every faded wooded fence, the number 13. I felt uncomfortable, but I kept driving. Then I saw a farmhouse, or what was left of one. The porch had collapsed, windows were broken, paint peeled from every wall. As my headlight swept across it, I saw someone standing on the porch, an elderly man. He wasn't moving, he wasn't waving. He simply watched my car pass. His eyes reflected white in my headlights. I kept driving. 30 seconds later, another farmhouse appeared. Exactly the same. Same broken porch, same mailbox, same man, standing in exactly the same position, watching me. I slammed on the brakes. Had I driven in a circle? No, impossible. There hadn't been any turns. I looked behind me. The road stretched straight into darkness. No intersections, no side roads, nothing. When I looked forward again, the farmhouse was gone. Only trees. I whispered, what is happening? The GPS answered, you have arrived. My stomach tightened. Arrived where? There was nothing, just road, fog, trees. Then the GPS screen went black. One line of white text slowly appeared. Do not exit your vehicle. I stared at it. It wasn't my normal navigation screen anymore. No map, no menus, just those words. Then, the message disappeared. Outside, something knocked on my driver's window. Three slow taps. I turned, and there was nothing. Then, three taps on the passenger window. Then, three taps on the rear passenger window. Whatever was outside, it was walking around my car, very slowly. My breathing became shallow. I locked every door. The tapping stopped for maybe 10 seconds. Then every tree around me seemed to move, not from wind, from shadows. Tall, human shaped shadows stepping between the trunks. Dozens of them, non fully visible, only silhouettes, watching, waiting. One stepped into my headlights. It looked like a person, except it had no face. Its skin was smooth, where eyes, nose, and mouth should have been. It tilted its head, then stepped forward into the darkness again. More appeared, one after another, silent, standing just outside the edge of the light. I started the engine. Nothing. It had stalled. I tried again, and still nothing. Then, every shadow stopped moving at once, as if they all had heard something far ahead. A single headlight appeared, not two, one. It slowly grew larger. Someone was riding an old motorcycle. As it approached, I realized the rider wasn't wearing a helmet. His face was completely covered by darkness. No shadow, darkness, as though his head absorbed all the light around it. He stopped directly in front of my car. The engine never made a sound. He simply sat there. Then he slowly raised one hand, pointing behind me. I looked in the rearview mirror. My blood froze. There was another version of my own car, parked behind me, its headlights off, driver door open, and someone who looked exactly like me was standing beside it, watching. He smiled. I had never seen myself smile like that. It was too wide, too perfect. Then, my double slowly lifted one hand and beckoned me to come outside. The GPS suddenly lit up again. One final message. If he reaches your window, do not look into his eyes. My heart pounded so hard I thought I would pass out. The version of me began walking towards my car, slowly, each step perfectly steady. His clothes matched mine. His haircut matched mine. Even the scrape on my jacket sleeve, exactly the same. But something wasn't right. He wasn't blinking, not once. He reached my driver's window, bent down, and smiled. His lips moved, but the voice came from inside my car, right behind my seat. You took my road. I refused to turn around. Then I heard breathing from the back seat. Cold air drifted across my neck. The smell, wet earth, rotting leaves, old wood. The kind of smell you notice inside abandoned buildings. The figure outside pressed one finger against the window, very gently. The glass immediately cracked. A thin line spread across it. Then another. Then another. I whispered every prayer I could remember. The motorcycle rider suddenly turned his head towards the forest. Every shadow disappeared, instantly. The rider looked back at me, lowered his hand, and pointed straight ahead. The engine finally started. I slammed the accelerator. The car shot forward. The figure that looked like me never moved. I drove straight through him. For a split second, everything inside the car became freezing cold. Then, I was back on the highway. Traffic, streetlights, normal sounds. The GPS restarted like nothing had happened. The clock read 12:03 a.m. Only 5 minutes had passed. 5 minutes. But my fuel tank had somehow gone from nearly full to almost empty. The next morning, I searched online for Hollow Road. Nothing, no town, no road, no history. A week later, I returned during daylight. I found the exact stretch of highway, but there was no side road, only a solid wall of trees. No sign, No mailbox, no entrance. I even checked satellite maps, and nothing. The road doesn't exist. Or, at least, it isn't supposed to. I still drive to work, but now I have one rule. If my GPS ever changes direction in the middle of nowhere, I don't follow it. Because somewhere out there, hidden behind those trees, there's a road waiting for someone else to take the wrong turn. That brings us to the end of tonight's broadcast. Whether these stories were encounters with something paranormal, tricks of the mind, or something we'll never be able to explain, I'll leave that for you to decide. If you've ever experienced something strange while driving alone at night, or if someone you know has a story they'd like to share, I invite you to email me at tonightsbroadcast77@gmail.com. Your experience could become part of a future broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's stories, please consider subscribing, liking the video, and sharing it with someone who enjoys a good mystery. Until next time, be careful on those lonely roads, because sometimes the most terrifying part of the drive is realizing you aren't alone. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next broadcast. Until the shadows call again. Good night.